welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you how I made this mushroom journal. I used a vintage mushroom canvas poster and burlap paper to make the cover, and this video will be the first part of the process, and there's probably going to be at least a couple more parts on how I made the signatures and then the jewelry that I used for the spine. I also want to welcome my new viewers. Thank you so much for subscribing. I'm thrilled that you're here, and I can't believe I have more than 50 followers. It's so exciting. So welcome, and let's get started. My daughter started a TikTok called Retro Susie Fan, and she shared some video of the junk journal that I made for her and some of my other junk journals, and I am truly humbled by the response. I cannot thank you enough, and I'm delighted that I get to share my process with you. I love mushrooms. I'm a 70s girl, and mushrooms were big then, and they seem to be big now, and I've just been fascinated with them, and I've only gotten more fascinated over the years. So I really wanted to make a mushroom journal, and I made this one from an Adolphe Malot vintage mushroom canvas poster from Michaels. From what I can tell, they're out of them now, but I have seen this poster on Amazon as well. I think they're a lot smaller. The one that I got from Michaels was, I think, about 26 by 36 inches. But I know you can, get them, or you could also get the printable canvas from Amazon and then print this vintage poster, because I do believe it's public domain now. I should check that for sure, but I think it is. My daughter suggested that I use burlap, so I decided to make a wraparound spine with it. I wanted to make several journals, so after dividing up my poster and deciding on how wide I wanted to make my spine, I cut down a LaCroix box to the size I wanted, and then to reinforce it, I used chipboard, which I trimmed down to be a little more narrow than the front and back cover and the spine. And I like to use acid-free medium weight chipboard, and it's made with 100% recycled materials. You can use the backs of paper pads as well. But what I learned making these covers is that I needed to use a pretty strong chipboard to prevent buckling. So a heavyweight chipboard is good. When I used a lighter weight, I got some warping and buckling of the canvas, and I did use PVA glue to glue down the chipboard, so I don't know if that contributed to the buckling, but you could also use Fabri-Tac or Tombow glue as well. I wanted these to be a little bit puffy, so I experimented with batting and felt. I tried cutting out the exact size of the cover, and I also tried cutting out about an inch overlap to fold over. The one that worked best was a layer of felt first and then the batting over the top. I think folding over the batting looks and feels the best, but it can get kind of bulky, so you have to decide what works best for you if you're making these journals. You could divide this up any way you want, depending on the size of the journal that you want to make, and you could definitely make the entire cover out of it. This was a complete experiment for me. So if you want to try this, I would encourage you to have fun with it and make whatever size works for you. After I prepared the base for the cover, I started on the canvas poster, and I tore it down the middle, and then I tore those panels down the middle, so I ended up with 4 panels, and then I divided those links into thirds. So that ended up being about 5.5 by 9.25 inch panels for the front and back covers, after sewing the burlap spine and folding over the edges. The total size of the journal ended up being just under 7.5 by 9.25. At first, I started out using regular burlap that I backed with coffee dyed cotton fabric, and that was a little difficult to work with. We found a paper backed burlap at Joann's, and that was much easier to work with. The regular burlap was, it frayed really easy. It is really stiff, so it doesn't bend very easily. But the paper-backed burlap that we found at Joann's was much better, and Amazon also has a printable burlap that you could use too. I decided to use a contrasting color to top stitch a grid pattern on the burlap, but you could also try fast flow stitching or any other design you like. I considered embroidering mushrooms on the burlap, but I ended up liking the grid pattern the way that it was, so I just used that. I sewed those 3 pieces together to make the cover, and then I glued that down over the batting. I did not get a video of that process, but it was just like the process for gluing down the batting. I did use Tombow multi-glue instead of PVA for that because it holds really quickly and really well. I ended up preferring that to the PVA glue for this particular project, but again, you could use whatever glue you prefer. Now, I love these illustrations, but I wanted to bump up the color just a bit, so I watered down acrylic paint and painted that onto the mushrooms. I let it set for a little bit and then dabbed off the extra water with a paper towel. And I did water down the paint quite a bit, so on some areas I repeated that process until I got the depth of color that I wanted. I wanted it to remain, kind of transparent, and that seemed to work pretty well. In the next video, I'll go into detail about sewing in the signatures and my method for using a hidden spine. And then in the third one, I'll go over how I do my charms and beads on the spine. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it, and I hope I get to see you on the next one. So see you then. So long.